Welcome to the Confessonal Closeup. My name is Christine Cisneros, and I'm so pleased that you are joining me here. The show today is called Mask or Raid. The crossroads that we are at right now, that we've been approaching, so many people have been doing this work for so long. I mean, I've been on the air for 9 years, but I wasn't always a conservative. I was actually a liberal until I voted for Obama in the first term and felt immediately ill. I literally had a physical reaction, and so did my partner. She felt ill too. And that began the long process of us figuring out why we felt kind of sick, why we didn't know what we were voting for. Here in Seattle, there's a newspaper called The Stranger, and it's been around, I think, for almost 30 years. And I remember living on Capitol Hill, that's right, living right where Chaz is, or was, or kind of is still, and for 15 years. And there was the newspaper at that point used to put out, and I think they still do, a cheat sheet. And you could get on that cheat sheet, and you could just literally copy onto the ballot what they told you to do, what they told you to vote for. And so, like so many of my friends who we really didn't know that much about politics, all we knew was that, most of us were gay. I mean, I'm gay, I'm Hispanic, I'm female, I'm middle-aged now. But at that time, that was really expected that you did that. The virtue signaling and the hairy eyeball and all of the ways in which you can be affected if you do not do the lockstep thing with recycling, with global warming, the abstinence from eating meat. These were all things that if you want to do them, that's fine. However, in the United States of Seattle, that was not permissible. In fact, I would say it's not the United States of Seattle. I would say it's the divisive state of Seattle. Those things are truly mandatory. And if you don't do those things, you'd better find a really damn good way to hide. And I did that for many years after I realized that I was just being a robot. As we move into this time of masks and hypoxia and, hydroxychloroquine, that's not good for you. But here, breathe your own carbon footprint. It's proof that you shouldn't be here. That's right. How does that feel? You don't believe in global warming? Do you now? It's almost like being waterboarded, except with a mask and having to breathe, very ironically, your own carbon. Isn't that what the left and the liberals and all of them have been arguing about for so many decades now? The inconvenience of you realizing that you don't have to do what they're doing. And actually, they're not even doing it. So you don't have to do what they're saying that you should do, especially when they're not doing it themselves. I mean, whether it's hypoxia or the lack of real protein, I think that there is something going on in Seattle that far exceeds the other cities in some ways. There is a race to the bottom that is occurring here that is just unbelievably, it's stunning. And I think that when you start thinking about all of the lies that we've been fed over the years and told that we essentially, what it boils down to is you really don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve to be on the planet. You shouldn't have any carbon footprint, let alone bring other people onto the planet and they have a carbon footprint along with yours called a family. When I was watching the New York Liberty and Seattle Storm, the little clip of them walking off the court because the national anthem was being played, I wasn't really surprised. It didn't really shock me that they were going to do that kind of jackassery. However, when I looked and saw that it truly was kind of a closed caption or closed circuit sort of thing, no audience, no fans, no stands, nothing. It's just a room with cameras. It was chilling. It was really something that got to me because it seemed to me that in that moment, what was really being told to you was that you are not needed. You as a fan, as a citizen, as someone who has a family or someone who has a relationship or someone that has a job or someone that breathes, you are not needed. In fact, you're not even wanted. The only thing you're good for is your money, your dollars, your tax dollars, and your dollars that go to entertainment, like basketball, like women's basketball. And I thought that I watched that whole situation for a few minutes and thought to myself, is this really where this is leading? Is what happened with the bat soup and supposedly the bat soup, right? I mean, everybody knows is what happened from being told that the bat soup is what got you, that you must learn how to social distance like a Sasquatch does, and that if you want to get something as simple as coffee, then, it's not follow the yellow brick road, it's follow the crazy red and green dots and lines. We're not going to let you go to school. We're not going to let you go to church. We're not going to let you work out. We're not going to let you do anything except sit in your apartment or your house and think about what you did wrong to deserve this. This is truly what I think it comes down to. There's a lot of shaming involved. There's a lot of, well, what'd you expect? You didn't recycle well. You didn't recycle enough. I mean, I actually once caught my landlord looking through our trash and taking pictures of the recycling and finding out who had put what where and actually giving us a notice throughout the building of 8 units that if anyone ever dared not put things in the right bin, that they would be charged $60. $60. And what I have to say about that too is that it wasn't really the $60 that got me. It was the condescending sort of attempt at humiliating, and it was beyond virtue signaling. It's the humiliation that is attempted every single time you decide to do something that you used to be able to do with your liberty as an American. I said this on the show a while back, and I'll say it again. I am just really tired of being treated as though I'm getting away with something, as though it is absolutely ridiculous that I should expect to have all of the rights, all of the constitutional rights, and all of the ways in which I have been afforded through money, time, and blood, what was intended for me, not just from our founding fathers or those who set up our country in general, but for those who fought for our liberties, those who've died on the battlefield for us, those who may not agree with us or agree with our lifestyles or agree with maybe some of our ideas, but who would die for us in any case. I personally know some people like that. And I have to ask everyone, what more do you want? And what more proof would you require that I actually should be and will be afforded the liberties that were guaranteed to me? What more proof could there possibly be that we actually have a right to our rights, and that every citizen of the United States of America has had someone fight for, die for, and serve for our liberties? This is truly what it's coming down to. It has nothing to do really with money. If you need an example, look at Venezuela. There's plenty of oil and money in Venezuela, and yet no one had toilet paper. And now there are plenty of people who have been killed or mowed down by tanks or abducted and ransomed off again and again in different families. This is all about control. And really the left has only 2 messages and 2 ends to their control. And that is death and slavery. And that is it. So when we look around and start seeing things happening around us, occurring at first to our chagrin, but then to our shock at times, this tells us once more how much we need to be on our game, how much we need to look around and find out who is actually doing what. It's too much of a situation where people are talking about, I like him, I like her, I don't like him, I don't like her. It's as if the Facebook template was put over everything instead of the facts of what someone has accomplished, what someone has brought to the table, and what it is that we are living in at this point. These ideals, which are not ideal at all, these insidious ways in which there is this pretense that the darkness is actually light, that it's actually sexy, that it's actually something that you'll enjoy. You just have to give it some time, just have a little patience. Just relax. You'll love it until you don't. First, you can't go to school, you can't go to church, you can't go to the gym, and eventually will it be that you can't go to church, school, or the gym because they won't exist, because the domestic terrorists have taken out that which everyone has fought and built for ourselves, our children, and the future. All of these equal outcome promises of utopia and unity through diversity has led Seattle from a homeless population of about 1,200 probably about 10 or 12 years ago, to now 32,000 homeless on our streets. We spend $1 billion a year, every single year, on homelessness. That's a little over $300,000 per person. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never spent $300,000 in 1 year for a house note or rent. These egregious lies have created a situation wherein there are plenty of fattened turkeys thinking that they are living at a wonderful spa, when in fact, all of the knives are now sharpened, and it's the day before Thanksgiving. So many lines have been blurred between that which is a punishment and that which is the reward, have led to this worship of suffering that is unprecedented in our country and in our world. People have accepted their obedient slavery, and what's worse is that they feel ashamed or embarrassed, or at the very least self-conscious at the fact that they were not obedient at some point to some degree. There was a man that I talked to about 3 days ago. His name is Cliff Mass. He's a professor at the University of Washington. He's a meteorologist, and he was the host for the weather on KNKX. He actually got fired because he went downtown and for 2 hours walked around, took pictures of what was really happening in downtown Seattle, and on his personal blog talked about it, comparing the domestic terrorism and the domestic terrorists that are funded and supported in our city to the brown shirts of 1938. Now, mind you, this was his personal blog, and I encouraged him strongly to look into his contract to see if there was anything in there that said he could not voice his opinion on social media. Because if there was no such clause in his contract, then that is a complete and utter violation of his constitutional rights. It may be just a small segment of some radio show on KNKX, affiliate of NPR, but it is a gigantic signal for the rest of us and the country. The focus on what it is to be diverse, the focus on what it is to actually be accepting or congenial or polite or united, the enormous amount of newspeak that is employed to not only blur the lines between what is important and what is not, but to actually create division by way of punishing you for using your brain and seeing through the facade that exists to hide that which is truly the agenda. Even now, I see neighbors everywhere that are putting up signs and signals letting you know that they will throw you under the bus if that's what it takes to keep from getting thrown under the bus. This time that we are in is exceptional, and those who have been hiding in plain sight, those who mock us by opportunistically wearing a mask in the public eye, all the while agreeing with the enemies of our country, and indeed the enemies of humanity. They themselves are racists. They are human racists. They are racists against their own human race. We no longer have to look in other countries where there is tumultuous unrest to hear the words "death to America." We see this every day now, not just in our streets and in our cities, but in our highest offices. And when we hear it from those in the highest offices, they're not just saying "death to America." What they're really saying is "death to you." It's going to come at us from every single angle. It's going to come at us with such velocity that we must stay awake. From the fraudulent post office mailing of our ballots, from the lies that surround this plandemic, to the psychological Manchurian candidating everyone on the planet, we must stand firm. We must be prepared, and we must not ever give in to the fear that they count on us succumbing to. I am proud to be here with you, and I agree there is no greater love than this, that a person would lay down his life for his friends. John 15:13. We have a prime example of that with Jesus Christ, laying down his life, shedding that blood, and creating a way for us to have access to the wonders of things that we would have never, ever imagined, and to the treasures that are not consumed by moth or stolen by a thief. The things we see happening around us are merely a reaction, but we, patriots, we know how to respond. We know exactly which road we are on. It is time for us to stand up. It is time for us to stand out. And this might mean some discomfort, but the bully will back down when we make our stand. We know which road we're on, and we know which way we're heading. And thus, we must use every single avenue that we can get our hands on and wrap our minds around and be constantly scanning for ways to help standing for our country and truly making America great again. God bless you, and God bless our President, Donald J. Trump, and God bless the United States of America. Until next time.